Hey gang, Jeff here with Mission Musician. It's been a little time since I've posted a new video, and the reason why is because I've been beta testing. I'm on Slate Digital's beta team. So Steven, thanks for adding me. But I've been working on a couple of projects for videos, and I was actually reshooting or shooting a new mixing with Slate's Everything bundle exclusively, and I decided to scrap that since these new plugins have come out. So there was probably about 4 hours worth of material that I just scrapped because I wanted to really get into testing these new plugins that Slate's put out. Well, they're not out yet. The current date is April 24th, and I can't release this video until the plugins are officially out, but they are awesome. So let me just, since they'll be out when this video comes out, let me just show you what they are really quick. And this isn't going to be a review of them. I'm going to do that in a separate video. So we got the Air EQ. We got the, we have the Air EQ Air, the Air EQ Earth, which these are pretty cool EQs. But this is what I am super excited about, these two modules right here. This is the 1176 Blue Stripe, and these things are phenomenal. I mean, man, they add so much. And what is really, really cool about these plugins is the mix knob. So you can just crush the crap out of something and then just back the mix down, way down. And we'll run through some of the stuff that I used on this mix. This is already mixed. It's not 100% done, but it's pretty close. There's just some automation things that needs to be done. But so I figured instead of having hours and hours of video of me walking through the mix, I would just mix it and then show what I did. Now, I don't think that is nearly as helpful as me literally walking through the mix on the screen and you kind of looking over my shoulder while I mix the song. But I also realized that not everybody has 4 hours to sit down and watch a YouTube video, especially with the way that I ramble through them. So really quick, I want to explain the reference track I'm using because it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of made decisions on the drums for me. This is one of my all-time favorite songs. It's called Jamie All Over by Mayday Parade. Love the way this song was mixed. I'm not a huge fan of the drums in this song, but I think the drums are like really, really punchy. So if you're not familiar with that, let me go ahead and play just a few seconds of this.
Sunset with you if I roll over when it's over. I'll take this Cali sunrise with me.
All right, so you hear how the drums are kind of really clicky. Well, if you listen to my mix, it's kind of the same thing.
Just say goodbye,
All right, so I don't normally go that route. I like a really deep, thick snare drum, but it fit this song to do it that way. So I think what I'm going to do to start off with is play through this whole song, and I'll bypass all of the plugins in and out throughout the song. Now, this song, occasionally when I'm between mixing jobs, what I like to do to keep my chops up is download songs and mix them. And I also like to do that so you guys can follow along with me. We did that on the I Am Cassettes Believe video series. I wouldn't recommend downloading this song. It's at Cambridge, www.cambridge-mt.com. And the reason why I don't recommend downloading this song is because it has a ton of problems. There are a ton of dynamic problems. There are a ton of timing issues. The kick drum was just not usable. I had to sample it, but in order to sample it, I had to move the whole kick drum file. It was off time quite a bit. There's just lots of issues with this song. Matter of fact, it's probably one of the harder ones that I've mixed in a long time, but I enjoy the challenge. So let me just really quick play through the whole song. Let me find the starting spot here really quick. And then I'll kind of explain what's going on. And in the process, I will bypass all the plugins in and out so you can hear the difference that they are making. Let's go down to here. All right, here we go.
Did you see that man with the hat? I feel crazy. I'm when the voices call me, don't show it. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or run away. Did you feel like coming home tonight? I'll be sure to leave the lights on. Do you hear me whispering sweet melody?
You know what? I'm going to turn down the snare sample a little bit, because when I'm bypassing, it's not a fair comparison. Let me find the spot where we're at. Sorry. Let's see.
I'll be sure to leave the lights on. Do you hear me whisper sweet melody? Do you hear me? I'm breathing in harmony. I feel crazy. I'm losing me. When the voices calling, don't show it. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or part of it. Does it feel like coming home tonight? Got me sort of leaving lights on. One broken mirror fix this place. Would you even realize it's your own face? This second chance may not come again. I'll get used to this to me, and we'll be sure to leave the lights on.
Right, so way better, much, or I should say, a lot, I can't speak. It is way punchier, clearer, warmer, and more alive. And the thing that I really used a lot on this mix is the Blue Stripe compressor. Now, I'm going to walk you through this mix, starting with the mix bus. Because there's a couple of new techniques that I want to kind of explain what I did. So on this mix bus, I have the FG73, the VCC, the usual suspects, but I've also got the Air adding some high end and I've got the blue. Is this the vintage? No, this is the modern. So there's two blue stripes. There's the modern and the vintage. This is the modern, and I've got this thing pretty much crushed, but I'm only blending in 20%, and I'm using circuit 2, and it actually should have the high pass filter on. I don't know why it's not, but so let's listen to this without these two.
I'll be sure to leave the lights on. Do you hear me whisper sweet melody?
So I really like what those are doing. Then I just got the virtual bus compressor with the FG gray and the mu, but there's no compression happen here. I just like the color the mu adds. I've explained that before in other videos. Just knocking off maybe 1 to 2 dB.
I'll be sure to leave the lights on.
So it's gluing it together. And then I got VTM, and we're just adding a little bit of tape saturation.
I'll be sure to leave the lights on.
All right, and then I have ozone, and I'm just adding some reverb in with this, some just overall room reverb. So let's go to the drums. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much depth about this, but the drums were just awful. And I had to actually completely replace the kick, and then I also sampled in a snare. And what I love about, what I love about VMR, these the Blue Stripe plugins, is now I don't have to parallel process tracks. I don't have to set up auxiliary tracks or buses to parallel process. I can do it right here on the plugin. I can crush the crap out of it and just turn the mix down. I absolutely love that. So let's just walk through all the drums really quick. And this is actually showing that it's going to a crush bus, but it isn't. All right, so I got the kick running to a kick bus because I did everything I possibly could to save the original kick. There was no saving it. I tried blending it in with the sample. It was just no good. So let's walk through this really quick. Let's listen to the kick. Now, the kick on its own may not sound like all that great, but it is really punchy in the mix, which is what I was going for. I was trying to copy that sound from the Mayday Parade song. So let's... Come on. Sorry. Bypass this. So, again, had the usual suspects on here. Actually, we were going back and forth when we were while we're beta testing these plugins, and Steven Slate said something that I never even in a million years thought of, and I absolutely love it. He puts FG, the FG 116 as the first slot in the VMR to emulate a tracking compressor. I never would have thought of that. Honestly, I wouldn't have. Now, I've tracked with real compressors before, but I never thought about doing it in the digital realm as a plugin, and I actually really like it. So what I'm doing is I'm compressing the signal before it even hits the rest of the plugins, okay? So it's getting it up to, it's squashing the dynamic level a little bit before it goes to the other plugins. So then I got it ran to the FG73 and then through the VCC on the Brit N. And did I even do any EQ? I didn't do any EQ on this. So, well, I did this custom lift. Let's see. No, I sure didn't. So I'm going to get rid of that. And let's see here. So we got the custom lift here. Adding some punch, adding some presence. Don't be afraid to twist the knobs on this thing. You know, you gotta you can back off the output of it if you need to, but really don't be afraid. This is one of those plugins that can't really harm your mix too much if you drive it pretty hard. Let's see. And then I have, again, the FG 116, the blue stripe. This is the modern one, and I'm compressing it really hard, but I'm backing the mix off. Oh, we're getting almost 18 dB of gain reduction, but I've got the mix down at 24%. You know, now if I turned it up, it'd probably sound like poo. Real splatty. So let's back that down. So that gives it that kind of clickiness that I'm going for. All right, let's listen to the snares. Let's listen to the first snare by itself, which doesn't sound that awesome. Matter of fact, it sounds pretty terrible. All right, so I got both the snares running through VTM. And then I got them running through VMR. Let's see. I did the same thing as if I were tracking through a compressor, and I actually really like this technique. I really do. I'm going to be using this a lot more. Got it running through FG73. Got it running through VCC. Just did a little cut at 500 and did a high pass on it. Added some body punchiness. Let's actually turn these off and I'll bring them in. That's adding some weight to the snare. And then that is giving it a beautiful smack. Doesn't look like Tremor's doing anything, so I'm just going to get rid of that. So that's the snare. The toms are actually pretty crazy. Let's see if I can find some tom hits here. These toms sound awful. I actually thought about replacing them, but I didn't. Let's see what we got here. so they sound pretty awful. I did use a stock plug-in to get rid of... There was some resonance there. Let's see. And again, I used the FG 116, the black, as sort of a tracking compressor. And these drums, you just, in the mix, you couldn't really distinguish them no matter what I did. So I used the Air EQ to kind of try to bring up the upper end of them, that stick hit, so you could kind of hear them. Let me really quick turn off the reverb. And let me turn this off really quick. And let me just kind of find where these hit. So I was having a really hard time with these toms, making them intelligible in the mix so you could hear what they were doing. So I added a little bit of the Air EQ, and then also, man, I added almost 6 dB. So let's listen to them without the EQs and without this. Probably a little much. All right, and then the low tom's pretty much the same. I pretty much did the same thing. Just trying to make them a little bit more so you can pick them out in the mix. Which is definitely better. And you want to know something funny I did on this reverb is I actually added the vintage to it to make it pop out a little bit more. Maybe a little bit overdone, but I like it. And you want to hear something funny? I totally forgot to EQ and treat the overheads. So I will do that right now. I told you this mix wasn't totally done. Let's see what we can do here. Let's get just a tad bit of compression going first. The FG. I'm going to turn off the reverb really quick. There's something in that snare that's really bugging me. I'm going to use an EQ really quick and try to find it. try the vintage on this one. I'm just messing around with this air. I don't know if I'm going to keep that on there or not. I love this compressor. This is a great compressor. I like that. And then so I got the drum bus. All the drums are ran through the drum bus. And I'm going to back this down just a little bit. So I got VMR. Again, using the modern. You can see that I really, really like this plugin. Just using a little bit of air to add some top end. Let's just take a listen here. I got the FG73. Let's turn all these off, and then I'll bring them in. Doesn't look like the trimmer's doing anything. So let me solo the drums again. How that compressor gives that drum set a bunch of life. It just really adds to it. I used the FG Bomber, and I used it on the tight setting because I wanted to tighten up the kit a little bit, and I like what it does. We might be getting a tad harsh with both of these air EQs. I'm just trying to pretty the cymbals up a little bit. Alright, so let's move on to bass. There's two bass tracks in here. One's a bass DI, the other's just says bass pedal. I'm assuming it's something like a Sans amp. On their own, bass didn't sound terrible. Has some kind of honky, junky mid-range frequency that I got rid of. So let's open VMR. Let's see. And I added a compressor. Nope, I didn't add a compressor at the start of this chain. Alright, so let's listen to what this... I had the vintage on this one. I was checking the two, and I went with the modern. My bad. So I was just comparing these side by side. Matter of fact, let's listen to the vintage, and then I'll turn that off and put in the modern. This just has a really awesome mid-range thing that it does, man. It is really cool. Let's listen to these one more time. I just love what this imparts onto the audio. It's awesome. So using CS Lift a little bit to bring out some presence, and then just a touch of low end. I didn't want to get too crazy on a kind of pop punk song, so just add a little bit there. And then I noticed there was another EQ. What is this guy doing? Taking a little bit out at 200. Hear that muddiness? So there's a little muddiness I took out, and then got VTM on there. The guitars were incredibly difficult. Actually, not a fan at all of the acoustic on this song. That's all one track. I guess two guys sat in front of a mic or something. But it's really boomy and kind of junky sounding. So I cleaned it up a little bit. Let's just put this in. Not a huge change. Let's go down to these acoustics. So these are really boomy. All I did was I EQ'd one and just copied it down. And you can see I'm just using just a tad bit of this compressor. So you can hear all that low end. If this was just an acoustic song and a vocal over it, I don't have a problem leaving that low end, but in a rock mix, it's got to go. All right, and then again, let's see, did I do any processing here? Nope. Actually, this can just be taken off. Okay, so the guitars are actually quite a big mess. Let's see, how can I explain this? I had to actually fix them. Fortunately, this session comes with a few DI guitar tracks, which was very, very helpful. I ended up and used S Gear. Let's see if I can find really quick where they're at. So there's this one and this one, and then this one and this one. Okay, so this is a DI, and this is a DI, these different colored ones. So these two, this is the original guitar track, and this is the DI. It's running to guitars left. Matter of fact, let me just for just a moment change these so it makes a little bit more sense. And then these two are running to guitars right. So let me play it without the DI. Whoops. And I meant to solo this and solo this. Super nasally, super fizzy, all the things that I don't like in a guitar tone. It's just really fizzy. So I EQ'd these two to begin with because I was trying to just use these. So let's listen to just, let's listen to this one really quick. Hear that? So we got rid of the kind of some of the digital fizz on that one, and then let's listen to, let me mute that one, and let's listen to just this one. What did I do here? Oh. I was doing everything I could think of to save these guitars and just use them, but it's in the end it just wasn't enough. And even the S gear sounds that I chose aren't spectacular by any means. They're just meant to help out these guitars. So let me bring in this one. That's just the S gear tone. So I'm trying to bring in some mid-range because these are so that they lack that mid-warmth and intelligibility in the guitars. They're just kind of fuzzy and scooped. So I wanted to bring some of that back in with this. And then a little bit more of the same over here. I don't remember even what I used. What did I use? I used the custom 57 on this one. And on this one, I used the Steeler. So let's listen to this one. Now that I'm listening to this in solo, which I should never be doing, there's something that's bothering me in this one. I'm going to fix it really quick. So just kind of wanted to show you what I was doing with guitar. I'm going to hide these again. And then I want to change these back really quick. And then I even EQ'd it a little bit more, just with a regular EQ. So that's what I ended up with. And then on the actual guitar bus, let's see. Let me turn all the guitars on really quick. So made them a lot more present. Actually, maybe even a little too much. In solo, they sound a little harsh, but it doesn't really matter what it sounds like in solo, I guess. Let's see. FG 73, the VCC on the 4KE. Did I do anything with this? No. And by the way, the FGN is really great on guitars. This is a very aggressive EQ, but it works great on guitars. Doesn't look like I used anything on that. Doesn't look like I used anything on this except for high pass. Just brought in some presence with the CS lift. Let's listen to that really quick. I'm going to turn it off and then bring it back in. And I don't always I don't always compress distorted guitars because there's not really a huge need to do it. They're already compressed by being distorted guitars. But I actually liked what this added to the color of it. And then this vocal was an absolute mess. Let me move this guy up here. So there's like, I don't even know how to explain this. You can see all of the volume tweaks I've done on this, and this is already after doing volume tweaks on the original. This was so dynamic, the original vocal, that I just had to do a lot of work on it. And even, this is part of the original, like, let me pull this here. It's like recorded differently. I don't know how to explain it. It's definitely a separate take. This has got what's called the proximity effect, where it's really boomy. The singer must have really been up on the mic. Oops, let me turn all these guys off.
Did you see that man with the hat? I feel crazy.
Right, so I had to end up it just didn't sound right no matter what I did, so I had to separate it out. Let's see, can I just pull that back? Yeah. Whoops, one too many. So I had to separate it out and then filter this to make it sound somewhat decent.
Did you see that man with the hat? I feel crazy.
Now this vocal, when I opened it up and got it, it sounded terrible. Not the singing, just it didn't sound like it was recorded very well. And man, I'll tell you what, this compressor made all the magic in this vocal. So again, I used that trick where use a compressor first and then go through all the rest of it, so it was like it was tracked with the compressor, which this track obviously was not. So let me turn everything off here and you can see how it starts to come together. Sorry, I'm having problems here working with a small screen. All right, there we go. All right, let's turn that off. All right, here we go. So let's start at the beginning. Well, maybe not that beginning. Let's just go from here.
Do you hear me? Sweet melody. Do you hear me?
You know what? I need to turn off the reverb. All right.
Do you hear me? Sweet melody. Do you hear me?
Now this is after I went through and evened out all of the vocal lines, because man, it was a mess. So let's walk through this. I'll start by bringing in the quote unquote tracking compressor.
Do you hear me? Sweet melody. Do you hear me? In harmony. I feel crazy. I'm losing me.
I don't know if you can hear that or not, but man, that is just making all the difference in the world with the mid-range of the vocal. Oh, it sounds so good.
Do you hear me? Sweet melody.
So this is like being parallel compressed. I got a pretty good ratio. I'm getting 10 to 15 dB of compression, but I've got the mix just over 50%, and I'm using circuit 1. Let me flip through these two really quick.
Do you hear me?
That one brings it a little bit more, gives it a little bit more presence.
Do you hear me? Sweet melody. Do you hear me?
So that compressor made all the difference in the world. And then let's hear what the Air EQ does on the Air EQ Air.
Do you hear me?
right? So that brings in that pretty top end.
Do you hear me? Sweet melody. Do you hear me? In harmony.
And obviously I didn't gain stage this really well. Maybe it's just because these parts are so... Still, the dynamic range is still all over the place.
Away, they're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or pardon me. I can feel like coming home tonight. Got me sort of leaving lights on. One broken mirror fix this place.
Right, and then I just added a little bit of delay, a little bit of Vox. The background vocals, I literally just slapped on just a few plugins. I cleared out some mud, added just a touch of high end, and then again kind of did a parallel compression. So that is pretty much it.
You hear me whisper sweet melody. Do you hear me? I'm breathing in harmony. I feel crazy. I'm losing me. When the voice is calling, don't lose your way. They're in your head, they don't mean anything. Just say goodbye, world, or pardon me.
All right, so I just wanted to kind of show you how I went about this mix. Again, this isn't super informative, but I was trying to keep it short, which apparently I did not do. Still coming in at an hour. But in future videos, I think that I will continue to do the kind of look over the shoulder type thing, because I don't think this type of video is super informative other than to show you the new compressors and the new EQs from Slate kind of doing their thing in a whole mix. Okay, so thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like these type of videos, and I will see you in another video hopefully really soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.